Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Thank you for joining us again as we continue the story of LYTUNA and little Henry. This is one of those moments where, if you've ever loved someone, ever waited, ever gone through days that felt completely hopeless, you're going to see a piece of yourself in this story. After all the storms at the company, after the days when Alex thought he had lost every bit of strength he had left, why would a man as strong as Alex end up in tears? What made Na smile even through her falling tears? And Henry, that tiny little boy, what did he do to make this moment unforgettable in the sweetest way? All of that is right here in today's episode. So get your heart ready, because what's coming next is going to touch the softest part of it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you won't miss a single moment of this family's journey toward happiness. And now, let's step into the story. The moment when a simple white dress made a man's heart completely overflow. That night, a soft breeze moved through the porch, carrying the familiar scent of bougainvillea. In the small kitchen, the warm yellow light fell over a simple but cozy dinner. A bowl of hot chicken soup, stir-fried vegetables, and a plate of braised fish still steaming. Alex sat across from his mother, his shirt slightly wrinkled from a long day. But tonight, his eyes didn't look as heavy as they had the nights before. The storms at the company had finally quieted. The tense meetings, the conflicts, the nights he stayed late alone, were now just faint traces behind the calmer look on his face. In that warm, peaceful moment over dinner, Mrs. Min suddenly set her chopsticks down and looked straight at her son. Her voice was slow, firm, and clear. "Alex, are you ready to have a wedding with Tuna?" The question dropped into the quiet room like a bell. Alex froze. His chopsticks hung midair above his bowl. He lifted his gaze to his mother, and in his eyes was a mix of surprise, hope, and a little fear, like someone afraid he'd heard wrong. "Mom, you really approve of me and Tuna?" Mrs. Min let out a soft laugh, but her eyes were already glistening. She didn't answer right away. She looked toward the bed where Henry was sleeping, then turned back. "I've known for a long time. Only Tuna can bring you peace. You've been through so much exhaustion, pressure moments when you almost gave up. But it's only with her that you smile the way you do now." She placed her hand over Alex's. Her voice was warm, steady, and full of certainty. "That's your responsibility, Alex. You found a good woman and a good mother for Henry. The rest, I will support. When a man chooses, he needs to hold on tight." Alex felt his throat lock up. All the words he wanted to say jammed in his chest. He had always feared his mother wouldn't accept Tuna. He worried that his past and his bad decisions would make things harder for her. But now, hearing the words support a good woman and responsibility, it felt like someone had opened a door inside him that had been closed for years. He took a deep breath, his voice rough. "Thank you, Mom. I won't let Tuna and Henry suffer. If you trust me, then I need to live in a way that deserves that trust." Mrs. Min smiled and nodded gently. "Remember one thing, happiness isn't something you promise with pretty words. It's what you do every day. I believe you can do it this time." Dinner ended with a quiet kind of joy. Not loud, not overwhelming, but warm, like a slow, current running through the heart. Night fell. The house grew still, broken only by the sound of insects outside. Alex went to his room and closed the door. He sat on the edge of his bed, still feeling the weight of his mother's question in his chest. On his desk was a catalog of wedding dresses he had secretly picked up from a store a few days earlier. He opened it. Page after page, white dresses glowed under the desk lamp. Some light as clouds, some simple and elegant. He looked at each one and suddenly found himself smiling. This one suits LYTUNA. This one, she'd get shy. Too much shoulder showing. He kept flipping through the pages, imagining her trying them on how she'd blush, how her hands would fumble with the fabric, how she'd insist I looked terrible, but her eyes would sparkle like a kid getting a surprise gift. Alex leaned his elbow on the table, running his fingers over one of the wedding dress photos. For the first time in years, after living in numbers, deadlines, and pressure, he felt excited like a young man preparing for the biggest day of his life. He whispered softly, almost to himself, and to someone sleeping miles away, LYTUNA. This time, I'm going to marry you, not to prove anything to anyone, but so you can proudly hold my hand and call this place home. Completely. He slept late that night, but for once, he fell asleep with a smile. The next morning, a thin layer of mist still lingered outside. Soft sunlight slipped through the curtains, casting pale streaks across the floor. Alex had already been up for a while. He put on a clean shirt, adjusted his sleeves, and checked the mirror one more time. The man looking back at him was trying to stay calm, but his eyes couldn't hide the excitement. He hurried down the stairs. Before he even reached the door, he grabbed his car keys. Alex, his mother, called from the kitchen. "Aren't you eating breakfast?" He stopped, turned around, and walked back to her. Without saying anything, he suddenly pulled her into a tight hug. "Mom, I have to leave early today. I'm going to the farm to pick up LYTUNA and Henry. I'm taking them to try wedding dresses." As soon as he said it, he could hear his own heartbeat speeding up. Mrs. Min froze for a moment, then smiled a soft, gentle smile he hadn't seen in a long time. She pat his back lightly. "All right, go. Drive safe. Make sure both of them eat properly. Don't let Henry get hungry. And remember, take good care of them." Alex nodded. Gratitude filled his eyes. "I will, Mom. Today is going to be a beautiful day." He stepped outside. The morning breeze carried the scent of damp soil and bougainvillea. The engine started, and the car rolled down the familiar road out of the neighborhood. In his mind, he saw one thing. LYTUNA, with her hair tied back, eyes still a little teary from surprise, standing in front of a mirror in a white dress, while Henry babbled beside her. And somewhere behind him, in the little house, fading into the distance, Mrs. Min stood by the doorway, watching her son leave, her lips moving in a quiet blessing. "I hope whatever you see today becomes the beginning of peace for the rest of your life." The morning at LYTUNA's farm was so peaceful you could hear the wind brushing through the banana leaves. Dew still clung to the grass, and the early sunlight painted the brick yard with a soft, honey-colored glow. In the courtyard, under the bright bougainvillea vines, LYTUNA was feeding Henry his porridge. The 1-year-old held a little pink plastic spoon, tapping it against the table, and every time his mother brought the spoon closer, He tilted his head and laughed so hard his eyes squeezed shut. A familiar sound came from the gate. The light crunch of car tires on dirt. Tuna looked up. Her eyes widened, then curved into that bright smile Alex always remembered. Henry followed his mother's gaze, dropped his spoon, and with all the determination of a toddler learning to walk, planted his feet on the ground. He took wobbly, unsteady steps forward, calling out in his soft baby voice, "Ba, ba." Alex walked into the yard holding a warm bag of breakfast. Seeing Henry run toward him, he set the bag down on the wooden bench, knelt, and opened his arms. "Henry, you're amazing. Come here, buddy." The little boy fell into his arms, laughing, his tiny hands patting Alex's shoulder proudly as if showing off. Tuna stepped closer, her heart melting at the sight. She spoke, still surprised. "Alex, you're not going to the company today." Alex stood up, holding Henry with one arm and handing her the breakfast bag with the other. His eyes were so gentle, they seemed to brighten the whole morning. "No. Today, I have something more important." "What is it?" she asked, her voice soft, full of expectation. Alex looked at her, a small smile on his lips. "Being with you and Henry." Tuna's whole face turned red. She lowered her gaze to Henry, trying to hide her shyness, but her heartbeat was so loud she swore the whole yard could hear it. Alex gently placed Henry back in her arms and continued, "Eat breakfast first, and later, get ready." She blinked rapidly. "Get ready for what you're making me nervous." Alex didn't answer. He just smiled a secretive smile that made her even more anxious. He patted Henry's head, opened the car door, and said, "Come with me. You'll find out." The drive that morning was filled with a strange excitement. Tuna sat in the passenger seat, stealing glances at Alex, only to quickly look away when he caught her staring. Henry sat in the back, hugging a rubber ball, babbling every time the car hit a bump, making both of them laugh. When the car finally stopped, Tuna looked out the window. A bright, elegant building stood in front of them with a clean white sign that read, "Bridal Dreams, where love stories are told in wedding gowns." She turned to Alex, her voice trembling slightly. Why did you bring me here?" Alex stepped out, went around and held her hand to help her out of the car. Henry looked around with big, curious eyes. Inside the glass doors, rows of wedding dresses sparkled like clouds. As they walked in, Tuna froze. The whole room felt flooded with soft light, each dress glowing with its own kind of beauty. Delicate, graceful, dreamy. Henry slipped out of her hand and toddled between the dresses, babbling happily. He stopped in front of a tiered gown, slapped his little palm against the fabric, and giggled like he was praising it. Tuna raised a hand to her mouth as tears spilled out. "Alex, why did you bring me to a place like this?" Alex stepped closer, took her shaking hands in his. "Because I want you to pick a beautiful dress. A dress for you to wear at our wedding." Tears streamed down her cheeks. I'm just a girl from a farm. I never thought places like this were for someone like me. Am I really worthy of this, Alex?" He tightened his grip, his voice deep and steady. "You're the most deserving person here. Tuna, I don't need a big wedding. I only need the person I want to spend my life with, standing right in front of me." He gently lifted her chin so she would look into his eyes. "Let me say this clearly. I want to marry you. A small wedding, peaceful, warm. Just you, me, and Henry. From the corner of the room, Henry heard his name and ran to hug his mother's leg, looking up with wide eyes. Majep, Mama Preeti. The sweet, chubby-cheeked words broke Tuna completely. She sobbed harder. Alex wiped her tears, his own hands trembling because he was emotional too. Come on, my bride. Today, we're choosing your wedding dress. Tuna nodded her smile, breaking through her tears. And there, in the glow of white satin and soft lights, Alex took her hand and led her toward the fitting area where every beautiful thing was waiting, and where a new chapter of their little family officially began. While Tuna was inside, Alex sat on the velvet chair outside with Henry in his lap, the little boy playing with one of his shirt buttons. A staff member brought out 3 wedding dresses, each hanging from shimmering hooks. The lights reflected off the white lace, making everything glow. Tuna took a deep breath. She stepped into the fitting room and quietly closed the door. Alex waited outside, his hand resting gently on Henry's head. But inside, he was anything but calm. His heart was beating fast, counting down every second until that moment. Henry giggled and fidgeted, but Alex couldn't focus on anything. His eyes stayed locked on the fitting room door, as if he might miss the most important moment of his life. The door slowly opened. Tuna stepped out. Alex stood up instantly, and in that moment, the world stopped. She wore a simple white wedding dress, off-shoulder. The skirt fitted just enough before flowing softly to the floor. Thin lace lay gently along her arms like tiny drops of morning dew. She stood there, quiet, soft, but so beautiful, Alex felt his knees weaken. Tuna looked at him through the mirror, her voice trembling almost to a whisper. Do I look okay? Alex didn't answer. He just looked. He looked for a long time. Looked like he was trying to carve that moment into his heart forever. Henry heard the silence and clapped his hands. Jep, Mama Pretty. The sound made Tuna laugh and brought Alex back to himself. He walked toward her, step by step, slow and careful, like he was afraid the moment would break if he moved too fast. Standing in front of her, his breath caught. He reached out to touch the hem of her dress, but stopped halfway, afraid of wrinkling it. His voice was rough. You're beautiful. So beautiful. I can't believe the person standing in front of me is really Tuna. The girl I used to hold so gently because I was scared she would slip away. Tuna lowered her head, her eyes red. I was afraid. I don't deserve a dress this beautiful. Alex didn't let her finish. He held her shaking hands, and then something happened no one expected. A tear fell onto her hand, soft, but warm enough to make both of them freeze. Alex was crying. He pressed his lips together, but another tear fell. He turned his head and covered his face, trying to calm down, but it was too late. Tuna stepped closer and touched his cheek. Her voice was soft as a whisper. Alex, why are you crying? Alex shook his head slightly, leaned his forehead against hers, and spoke in a broken voice. Because I used to think I would never get this day. I thought I'd lost the chance to be happy. But you came back to me. You and Henry gave me my whole life back. He cupped her face with both hands, looking into her eyes, glistening under the lights. Tuna, when I saw you in that dress, I realized I don't want to wait another day. I want to marry you. I want the whole world to know. You're my woman. Tears fell down Tuna's cheeks, mixing with her soft, breathy laugh. She nodded, her fingers trembling as they touched his face. Yes, I want to be your wife. Henry stood between them and looked up. Ba, me, Dad, Mom, Hug. They both burst into tearful laughter. Alex picked Henry up and wrapped his arms around both of them. In that bright white fitting room, surrounded by sparkling dresses, they held each other tightly, as if letting go, even for a moment, might make their happiness slip away.
Từng muỗng một đút cho Tú Na bằng đôi bàn tay run rẩy. Tập đấy